And now something completely different.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hairloss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Well, hello, everyone. Hey, Joseph. Welcome back to the real world, my friend.
The real world. What is that?
How are you?
I don't even know what that is anymore.
The real
I can't
world?
complain, you know.
The real world is our world. This is the world of the bald truth, man.
It's just the world of truth. Bald or not.
The world of truth. I like that.
Yeah.
Guys, the phone number is 888-659-3727. So great to be back. Sorry that I took the holiday off last week. I really shouldn't be working today, but I am. I felt that I couldn't leave Joe out there on his own this Friday. So once the sun goes down, I am out of here.
That's not too long from now.
And please, no nasty text messages on a Jewish holiday anymore, people. That's all I ask.
Ooh. That's not good.
Sitting there celebrating the new year and just like bing, 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 bing. Jesus Christ.
In the chat room, stop combing your hair and go live. That's good.
Guys, the phone number is 888-659-3727. What was that?
And not entirely inaccurate.
It's more like sculpting it for me. I'm just saying.
Mine, it's funny. It's like I've learned to deal with the different lengths of hair, when I need a cut or when it's freshly cut. And my styling regimen is nothing more than a little bit of hairspray when it's still damp, let it dry for about 3 or 4 minutes, a little bit, blow dry, and then flip my head up, a little bit of hairspray on top, and it stays in this funky
turn your sound up.
Simon Le Bon 1986.
Well, here's the thing. Because of your hair transplants, you're not really hiding that much, where I am pulling the old Shambui. So it's a little bit more of a choreographed scenario for me to get things just the way that I want it to be. If you see me when I just wake up, which you have, Joe, no homo, but you've seen me on camera, it's a different story. It's a totally different story. You can see what I'm thinking at some points in my scalp. What was that?
I've seen you in the morning after a bender walking around in your wife beater. So I know.
I don't remember that. I remember the bender. I don't remember like walking around in a wife beater in front of 2 people I just met the night before. But we did get pretty close, all of us. We're sitting there sitting there on the putting green, just talking shit about the industry, loaded, and Specs has a bottle of Jack Daniels in his hand. I wish I had that image. Like I wish I would have taken a picture there.
That would have been great.
It was funny as shit. I just remember him whatever he was saying was hilarious. And he has his bottle of Jack Daniels in his half-drunken bottle.
Yeah. Like it was his.
Like it was his. He owned that shit.
He was protecting it. Yeah. He was protecting it. It's mine. It's mine. It's all mine.
Guys, we just had a full board. Call back, 888-659-3727. This is the Hair Loss Show. It is great to be back. It's great to do this show live every Friday. For everyone who is now following me and DMing me constantly on Instagram, please, for God's sake, understand, we go live. I'm not a person who's developing an Instagram following just to answer DMs or to send you to websites or to give you discount codes for shit. If you're viewing me and viewing my content on Instagram and you have questions about your particular situation, this is a perfect scenario for you. to actually call and speak with us. It's not about going live and doing an Instagram live and going down the list of people's comments. You could actually speak to us. I mean, this is our program for all of us, for this community. And my page, everyone's, I say my page, but I consider it like our community page now as it's growing. That's what I want it to be. Not about Spencer Kobren. It's about providing a platform on social media, which is crazy, by the way, but I have to do it, to try to keep as many people out of harm's way as possible. So if you have specific questions or a scenario you want to talk about or an experience or you have surgery scheduled for next week, call us. We're here to help. 888-659-3727. Joe, we have calls, so let's just get to the phones.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah.
Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from? Hey, caller.
Hey, it's Bill from D.C.
Bill from D.C., what's happening, man?
Hello, Bill.
How are you?
Okay, how are you? I can hear you driving.
I'm good. Yes. Can you hear me okay, though? Or?
No, it's fine. You're just going to have to speak into the microphone. So what's happening, man?
I kind of wanted to start with a comment that I was looking online and a photo of Biden and the Prime Minister of India showed up, and I'm like, both of them have had hair transplants. And both of the results are the reason I don't get one, because they're both from the front. They've got good frontal work, but you see them from the sides and the back, and they're a freaking mess because they just have lost too much hair.
Well,
that seems to be the direction I'm going in, even with the meds, that the hair just keeps going.
Look, that is a big part of it, and that's why when people get angry with me, young people get angry when I just try to warn them about, the reality of hair transplant surgery, and that, yeah, it's possible that the grafts that are moved will be relatively permanent over time, but as you age, shit's going to change, and things may not look as good as they once did. And also, for most people, your grafts will miniaturize to some degree over time. So if things aren't really well executed, you're fucked.
Yeah, it looks like the grafts are kind of holding up okay. It's the in-between the graft and what's left of the native hair, where there's just a big blank space.
Yeah, well, I mean, who knows? I mean, from what I know from President Biden's work, he had some really obvious bad old school plugs for a while. I think he had them refined, and he probably did lose some of those grafts over time. And it looks to me, again, I'm not an expert, well, maybe I am, but it looks to me that he also had some facial work done over the years, which could have affected his temporal peaks. And he also had, I think, his scalp removed to some degree at some point to operate on a brain aneurysm. Yeah. So a lot of shit's going on with him.
Yeah. But that does lead me to another question. At some point, I would, if I ever did the hair transplant, I've been looking at it for years and haven't, but two procedures that I would like to have at some point down the road is a brow lift and ptosis correction.
Yeah.
And
how old are you?
53.
Okay. You're young. Go ahead.
And the brow lift, they try to hide the scars in your head. So if you were to do that, I guess it would make sense to do that first and then do a transplant later, or any thoughts on that?
I'd probably do that first. Because if you're trying to hide the scar, then you're going to be. It's usually done with a transplant into the scar, which is usually through the hairline. So do this first, and then start your hair restoration journey shortly thereafter, relatively speaking. Because you're basically killing two birds with one stone with that first step of hair transplantation. You're hiding that brow lift scar, and you're starting in with your new hairline.
And do you know of any, this is off your guys' topic, but of how to find plastic surgeons that are, I mean, I know you can look for board certification and photos and ask for references.
I'll give you, for a while I was considering, I did some pilot shows, something called Plastic Surgery Live, and I got involved in the field for a very short period of time. I was really turned off by it. And as bad as the hair loss industry is, holy mother of God, the cosmetic surgery, facial plastic and reconstructive surgery, plastic surgery, and all these other so-called cosmetic surgeons in between, it is a dog-eat-dog world. And there's, just like with hair, there's a handful of surgeons who are really good at what they do. So to me, if you're going to get any eye work done, you want to go to an ocular plastic surgeon, someone who specializes in eye surgery. Now, that could be a facial plastic surgeon. It could be an ENT who specializes in ocular surgery, or I'm sorry, a ophthalmologist that also does aesthetics, that specializes in eye surgery. Or it could be a plastic surgeon. I would stay away from a plastic surgeon or a cosmetic surgeon that has a menu of facelift, boob jobs, eye jobs, all that stuff. You really want to stick to someone who all they do is eyes, number one. As far as a brow lift is concerned, I mean, I've seen some, there's some old school guys that consider, they do brow lift in a certain way, and there's some guys who are a little bit more, and women who are a little bit more cutting edge. Brow lift is tricky, man, because it could really alter the integrity of your scalp and your total look. So, you should really, I always tell people, especially a guy, to really think twice before getting a brow lift.
Oh, interesting.
Sometimes if you decide to get, it's two schools of thought. A lot of plastic surgeons or facial plastic surgeons will say, well, they should probably go for a brow lift before you touch your eyes, because when you do a brow lift, it may open up the eyelid in the eyes a little bit, so you won't need any type of blepharoplasty, upper or lower, whatever. So that there's school of thought, which makes sense. I'm of the mindset that the less you could fuck with your face, especially like your brows and your cheeks, and the better. So if you just need to remove a little skin from the top of your eyes, if it's hooding or whatever, that may be an easier move.
These Zoom calls will really make you start wanting to redo everything. But
well, first of all, those cameras suck, and just the way that it looks back on you, it really sucks. So I wouldn't worry about that. You want to take a good look at yourself. Get yourself a good iPhone. Set up a tripod. Get some good lighting, and you're probably pretty close to that, except for like the lighting differentials.
Okay.
And
then one other thing, I've seen a few of the doctors that are on in your guys' program, and I kind of, the few I've seen, if I ever do it, I've been leaning.
Say that again. I'm sorry, you're a little muffled.
Sorry, I've seen a few of the doctors on your, in the IAHRS or whatever it's called. And I'm kind of leaning towards, I'm in D.C., so Dr. Bernstein in New York is, fairly reasonable to go to and get back home. And I just like that his work can be very conservative, and that's what I would want. And I even asked him to, do a hairline further back than he, initially recommended. But is there anyone else kind of on the East Coast that, is just those conservative guys?
I think a lot of the guys on the East Coast that are in the IHS are relatively, and when you say conservative, it's really more appropriate. And I think Bob Bernstein would agree with that as well. His colleague, Dr. Shaver, I mean, she's really, in my view, incredibly ethical, really talented, and has had some really good work under her belt. Obviously, you have Dr. Doran in New York City. You have Dr. Wesley, who is probably a little less conservative, but, has a really good reputation. You have Tom Law, who is actually out on Staten Island, who he's pretty conservative. He's old school. He's really good. But are you considering an FET?
That's what everyone I've seen has recommended.
Yeah.
I think just given, where I'm headed, I guess it reserves more hair for me to get, because I definitely understand I'm not a one and done guy. It's, going to be additional ones down the road.
What's your degree of hair loss now again?
I would say a 5 to 6 maybe with a comb over.
Okay, so I mean, you have significant ground to cover. So yeah, I'm sure. I mean, if you're willing to keep your hair, at a normal length in the back and on the sides, at your age, I would say a lot of doctors would recommend. Doctors who are, understand what they're doing and have the infrastructure to do it would probably recommend a strip. I would say. I don't know, Joe. What do you think?
At this point, yeah, it would make sense, and I think that. Given your existing hair loss and your age, I think strip is probably a solid contender to consider first. Unless you do see yourself shaving your head anytime soon, but that's probably not the case. Boy, that static's really, really bad.
Yeah. But, there's a lot of doctors. Some doctors have satellite offices here in the IHS that you could have a consult with in New York. Like, Mark Dower does, and I know Jeff Epstein does. So, I mean, you have the opportunity, being so close to New York, to have consultations with some of the best doctors in the country. So
just to be like Zoom or something, or
well, they of course they do Zoom, but if you want to have an in-person consultation, these guys all have offices in the city now. So you got Bob Bernstein, Mark Dower, Jeffrey Epstein, Shaver. You got Robert Doran, Tom Law. You have you have Wesley. So, I mean, if you want to actually take a drive and, schedule like 2 days of consultations, you could do it.
Yeah. I did meet with Bernstein in person about a year ago, and so, we'll see.
In person is the way to do it. If you don't mind getting in the car and driving 4 hours and setting up a day of consultations, to me, in person is the way to do it.
Yeah. And I just wanted to quickly share my oral minoxidil experience. I've been on Propecia and dutasteride for 15 years now, and I finally decided to try the oral minoxidil, and I started with half of the, I think 2.5 milligrams, and that did okay. And then when I added the other half, within like 3 days, the swelling, waking up with like ridiculous swelling under my eyes. I mean, you could have put a pin into my face and water would have come out from how bad the swelling was.
Really?
And it was just 2.5. So about that. But yeah, I'm doing dutasteride now, and as you have been talking about, it has gotten very expensive to get the brand name, so I had to go with the generic. But so anyway, appreciate the advice, and maybe I will check into some of these other doctors in New York.
Yeah, man. Surgery is a last resort. There's no rush. You're 53 years old. You've lived this long without it. It's always going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
But I will tell you to really be careful with facial surgery. As a man, I mean, you got to go to someone who really works with a lot of men, who really specializes in the procedure you want. Because let me tell you something. I see guys around here in this neighborhood, they are fucked up, man. I mean, they just have a surprised look on their face. It's ridiculous, and their foreheads are like glass. I'm like, come on. I mean, I'm not judging you. I understand why we all want to look youthful. I do too. That's why I work out and take care of myself to the best of my ability. And gravity's taken over in some parts of my body and face. But, you got to do things that are appropriate and conservative and don't make you look whacked out. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. No, it can go wrong very easily. So.
Yeah. All right, brother. Good luck. Thanks
all
for
right,
the call.
Have a good weekend, guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. I mean, I see these guys and they're just whacked out, man. And I'm not judging. I understand it. Listen. Oh, and by the way, let me do some birthday wishes. Happy belated birthday to Dr. Ferraduni, Bijan Ferraduni.
Yes.
Who
saw that. Yeah,
I have to say, I know a lot of people in this industry. A lot of people in this industry. And besides him being a great hair transplant surgeon, he's one of the nicest human beings on a personal level that I've ever met in this field. Incredibly respectful always, just an honorable dude. He sticks to his word with his patients, and he's always very kind to me and generous in ways like, with his time, and just a good fucking dude. What?
He's fun to drink with, too.
It's funny because I never really partied with the guy. I try not to do that much when I'm at these meetings, except unless you're around. But I once got loaded at one of these artist meetings, but it was already after I spoke. I remember, I think Dr. Glenn Charles came up to me. I'm like, dude, I'm loaded, so you may want to talk to somebody else.
Nice.
Like at that point, I had to leave the bar. I had to go. It's like something happened. Like there was like that switch when you had like
something broke.
Yeah, like when something broke. I'm like, listen, before I stagger out of this place, I better just somehow escape. But
I need to keep some dignity here, so I'm exiting.
Yeah.
Stage left.
Yeah, and also it is even though we don't work together, he's always been very kind to me, very respectful person. Always understood what we've done over the years. Today is Dr. Craig Ziering's birthday, so I want to wish him a happy birthday.
Yep, happy 60th, Dr. Craig.
60. He looks
good job.
He looks good, man.
Yeah, he does.
He really takes care of himself
in the birthday videos. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I would actually argue that he looks better now than he did probably 10 years ago. I think that's the case. He looks fitter than he did about 10 years ago, I'd say.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So what was I going to say? Andrew Zarian's distracting me with his new podcast host, which we will talk about off the air. Guys, the phone number is 888-659-3727. That's 888-659-3727. Look, this is the Hair Loss Show. We are live. We do the show on Friday. I air it on Joe Tillman's Hair Transplant channel. Now, guys, hold on. I'll take your calls in a second. Now, this is an interesting little tidbit, which I think is funny. Okay, so we started GHLS 3 years ago, 2020, during the pandemic, and it was very successful, right? Great.
Yes.
You would think that everyone would want to see that success, and everyone would be like, wow, this is really cool. You guys pulled the shit off. It's really successful. So I had a company contact me that is interested in acquiring the conference. Now, the only way you can do that is if you don't just state you're successful, but you actually have to open up the books.
Yeah, of course.
So I happened to comment in our chat on WhatsApp chat on the faculty group that this may be happening. So no matter what happens, whether I decide to move in this direction or not, GHLS is going to evolve and to, and continue, whatever. And then our friend Dr. Jerry Wong writes, well, if you sell it to a for-profit company, you're probably going to lose a lot of the physicians who are offering their time for free. And I'm just like, oh my God. It's like the fighting doesn't end. All people want to do is listen, Jerry, I love you, man. You're a great surgeon. Look what you did for Joe. Look at this guy's head. You changed his world. But come on, stop counting the money, man. There's a reason why we are trying to do this. And it goes far beyond dollars and cents. We want to turn this field, this nuanced, elegant form of cosmetic surgery, this discipline of cosmetic surgery, into the real specialty that it is, to be looked at as something that's not just, some slock shop commodity that's being performed in the back of a wig salon. That's actually funny because I know this guy's got a new surgical suite in the back of a wig place. But anyway.
That's not Jerry Wong.
It's not Jerry Wong. Yeah. So Jerry, please, if you're listening, this is it's a good thing. It's powerful for your field, for the good people in your field. And I promise you, if I decide to make this happen, we'll have an old timers table with sashes, whatever you want. You are going to be. I'll put your crown on your head. You will be like revered at this thing. Free admission, the whole thing, whatever you want. Dinner. But come on. I mean, I'm sorry, Joe, but I mean, it's silly. I don't mean to put you in a bad position, but it's just silly. It's unfortunate. None of this stuff even has to be discussed. I thought all of our faculty would be like, wow, this is a good thing. We started this and we're all part of this and we're going to grow it. And then once it gets to the point where it's really big, we get to be founding faculty. Mm-hmm. Jerry's right there with the money. Fucking money, man. It's unbelievable. Anyway, 888, listen, I love you, Jerry. I'm just busting your balls, but come on. Don't bust my balls on this chat. We're trying to do something good here. 888-659-3727. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Steve from Houston, Texas.
Steve, what's happening, man?
Hello, Steve.
Yes, hi. This is a follow-up call. I'd called you guys back in May. I was using oral minoxidil after 2 months and was having results.
That's
great.
You
guys asked me to call in later.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still using oral minoxidil. I see growth, but it's the little baby hairs versus the terminal hairs, and I'm trying to up my dose from 1.25 milligrams to 2.5. So that's the status. So I still am a believer in oral minoxidil, and I was looking for any recommendations you have about something you could add to the regimen, like maybe topical minoxidil as well. So just want to hear your thoughts.
Well, to me, and I am listening to you while typing, to me, if you're already doing well on oral minoxidil, why would you want to deal with a pain in the ass topical?
Because more is better.
More is better. Yes. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, that's not the way it works, unfortunately, and actually, fortunately. Look,
how long you been taking this so far?
I started in March.
Oh yeah, so April, May, June, July, August, 6 months basically.
Right.
You got many more months of potential improvements to come along. So at this point, I think it would be even premature to consider a secondary treatment or an adjunct treatment. I just stay the course for another 6 months at least. See how it works out.
Okay.
Because if you're happy with how things are working out right now, if you're seeing improvement, then you could potentially have more to come. Even if you're not seeing improvement, you're just seeing like a cessation of loss or a stabilization, you still have 6, maybe 10 more months to where you could see some sort of additional benefit. Like it could actually kickstart. So don't be in such a rush. Let it give it the time it needs to do what it's going to do before you make that decision. I'd say a year minimum.
Okay. Well, I've been fighting hair loss for 40 years, so I guess another 6-9 months not going to matter.
There you go.
You're in the game. It's the long haul, man. This is not a sprint. It's a marathon.
Right. And to follow up on what you were talking about, money. They say money is the root of all evil. So that's I'll tell you what about this industry. It's an interesting field.
If you're not out there, if you don't have like something that's brick and mortar with your name on it, you don't have an MD, and you don't, perform surgery, for whatever reason, you are not allowed to earn a living. That's just the way that it is.
Apparently.
Everything you have to do is free. Everything you have to do, you have to, provide physicians with free, opportunities, and you have to do this for free and that for free. Everybody questions what you're doing. It's a sad state of affairs, really.
That's right.
And there's just this weird professional jealousy. There's a group of guys who really they can't stand the fact that Joe and I and others are capable of like reaching people, changing their lives with nothing but a hangover and a fucking pair of boxer shorts. It bugs them. All right, brother.
Sometimes not even that much.
All right, brother. You take care. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks for calling, Steve.
Bye-bye. 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. That's 888-659-3727. Look, this is the Hair Loss Show. Been on the air in some form or another for 26 years. So
Unbelievable.
you ask yourself about the dedication to somebody's work. I just want you to think about that, people. And even some of the deadbeats out there, you know who I'm talking about. Think about what, not only what I do, but what Joe does. Think about the effort that this takes to provide the content and to change the lives of countless people for 26 years for free. We don't provide the one thing I never wanted to do. Obviously, my publishers sell my books over the years. That's different. But I never wanted to sell a product or a service. I never wanted to pimp out hair transplants. I wanted to provide people with the information they needed to make informed decisions and provide them with the safest place possible to start their research. That was always my goal. And it's interesting. We've been able to succeed in that goal for the last almost 30 years. There's still a small subset of physicians out there that don't fully appreciate it or understand that. They can't grasp the reality of it. And all I can say at this stage in my life, at the age of 58, is that's something you guys have to deal with. I don't know what to tell you. You have to wrap your brain around it somehow and say, look, Kobren's not going anywhere. Tillman's not going anywhere. This is our reality. We work within these parameters. And everyone else who is like, great job, people, we really appreciate all the work that you do and provide us with, when people walk through our doors, they are well informed and they're educated and they have the information they need to ask the right questions without being a pain in the ass, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Because they already know what they're not asking how many grafts per square centimeter are you going to be providing me, or how come this guy's charging less than this guy?
That's a classic.
Yeah. They've already done their homework. They've been informed. And they're sitting there and they've chosen you to have a consultation with. Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
That actually reminds me of how the craziness that I discussed yesterday in the main event actually began, or one of the parts of the discussion that led up to the drama that I was talking about yesterday. And that is... And then to tie it in with what you were just talking about, in Hampton Hudson,
I already forgot what I was talking
nothing
about.
Nothing is free. Talking about money.
Oh.
Steve from Houston was talking about money's the root of all evil, and you're talking about how everyone wants something for free. If we don't have a brick and mortar, they expect it to be free, and that's true. What's interesting is there is something that's free. The ability to change this industry because of the content that you put out, the content that I put out, the content that we collectively put out together is free to be reposted, shared on everyone's social media.
They're afraid.
100 doctors,
I don't get it.
100 clinics. This is for all the subscribers and followers that are watching this. This isn't for the doctors, because the doctors, this falls on their deaf ears. But if you are going into a clinic, talking to a clinic about your own case, you should ask them, especially if they're members of whatever we do. Why aren't you sharing the content from the Bald Truth? Why aren't you putting that on your social media? I would love to see that stuff on your social media, because it educates me. It educates people that watch it. This is free. And it is the answer to steering this ship back in the right direction. The ship being the industry. It won't completely change everything, but it'll, over time, it could. And it's completely free. So there are some things in life that are free. At least to some people. But for these doctors, it is free. And all they got to do is spend 5 minutes of their own time watching it and then clicking share and putting it up on their own social media, or handing it off to their web people and say, please put this on my website. It's valuable for my patients.
And those are great points. And I think about when you're talking about money and things and the fact that there's nothing charged to the consumer. I want you to really think about this. The average hair transplant surgeon, if he has a decent practice and he maybe does a couple of TED things, whatever it is, let's just say that they could easily gross $25,000, $30,000 a day. Would you say that's about right, Joe?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So for what, $20 a day or $25 a day, whatever you essentially make with your guys, this guy's calling you greedy? It's hilarious to me. Think about the breakdown. Maybe $30 a day to not only be out there, but to support your work.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fucking joke.
It's an embarrassment.
That's cheaper than their fucking lunch on a daily basis.
Yeah.
It's like a pack of cigarettes in New York City.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, I want, especially the doctors, put this into the perspective that it should be. What all of you can be doing to change this field by supporting the right people, getting involved, sharing the content.
Mm-hmm.
It would change things to a magnitude you can't even imagine. But they keep going in the same direction. Go ahead.
Which also ties into the subject of the show today, where hair transplants can be dangerous. They don't have to, well, I mean, they always will be to some degree because it is surgery, but the chance of danger is reduced if there was a collective effort, like-minded, high-quality physicians that were all working in unison to share the message.
I never forget this conversation with Arthur Tykozinski, who was a former president of the ISHRS, Brazilian dude, in the industry forever,
Mm-hmm.
old-timer. He's probably my age, maybe older, I don't know. And this is when he was really trying to figure out, how he could fight the fight and do all this stuff. And I said, listen, you get 200 guys together. You just listen to what we have to say.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, how much will this campaign cost? I'm like, it's not a campaign. Jesus Christ. I said, I don't know, it'll cost, let's do the math. Maybe it's $20, $30 a day to be a part of everything, to be in this organization, which would be purely for a consumer-centric group, where you all provide the same free information to the public. I mean, it costs you guys nothing. And his first thing is, that's too much money. For me.
Yeah.
And we're going to be doing all the production. We're going to be sending out all the content. We're going to be, it's insane. So what you're saying is you don't want to spend $25, whatever, it's $30 a day, not only to change lives, but to ensure that the pool of physicians that people really are going to look at are at least the best out of the bunch. That everyone has a fighting fucking chance. Now, here's the truth. I don't think that I could even work with 200 doctors. But I gave them that figure because they wanted to come and work with us.
Yeah.
But I don't think, in good conscience, I would be able to actually have these 200 doctors working or connected to anything that I do. But, maybe 120, 150, that would be enough to accomplish the goal. Yeah. They don't even think about how much money they lose every month out the back door when these guys are going to these chop shops. Because they are unwilling to come to the table and actually do the right thing for patients. It's crazy.
In reflection, it's like, I think it's funny because, as opposed to option A, oh, well, that's too much money. They went with option B.
People's lives are being destroyed.
Where someone came in with a big PowerPoint presentation and gave them, a promise of deliverables, which is part of the language that's being used.
For $400,000.
$350,000 later, they've got a Halloween commercial that actually, would scare the hell out of some small kids, and that's about it. And a bunch of people standing around with their hands in their pockets, saying, I fight the fight, or I fought the fight, or whatever they're saying.
Sam Lamb put and he's a hair, if you guys don't know who he is, he's a hair transplant surgeon and a facial plastic surgeon down in, I think, Palo, somewhere in Texas, Plano, Texas.
Plano.
And he put a video online. It was a guy who's some sort of an influencer, YouTuber who has a lot of followers, who was offered a free hair transplant, just like you were, just like I have been, from one of these Turkish clinics. They were going to fly him there. All he would have to do is do a couple of videos for them. This guy was absolutely not a candidate. He had severe, significant male pattern baldness, probably about already a 6 moving to a 7 with retrograde alopecia at the age of like 30-something, 31 maybe. Mm-hmm. Not a candidate for surgery. So Sam put up a nice video. I mean, but he's, out there like outraged at this, and he puts it up on Facebook, on his page, and maybe, like all of the usual political suspects come out and they give him a big applause, and they're like, we need to put this on the ISHRS website. We need to share this with... No one's going to see it, people. I mean, can't you get it through your effing heads?
No.
What an opportunity. This is a perfect opportunity to get the word out there to, a lot of people. Maybe this guy who has 1.8 million followers or whatever will share his experience. Maybe he won't. But God almighty. And that's just the way that it rolls, man. So all you guys who are listening, all you guys that may have been botched or fucked up somehow, who've made the wrong decisions, that are coming to us now saying, what do we do? What do we do? Do you know how many of you guys lives could have been changed just since 2018 through 2019 if this fucked up industry just got its shit together? We had this one guy who's ranting about how me, Joe, and Specs aren't doing enough. We're 3 people.
There's only 24 hours in a day.
It's hilarious and it's sad. But here's my promise to you, everybody. I'm not retiring. I always say that I'm going to retire. I'm going to continue to do this. We're going to continue moving forward. And I do see that my social media has grown, and I'm just posting stuff on a regular basis. I guess that's all you have to do. And more people are finding the broadcast. More people are watching things on demand. More people are contacting the American Hair Loss Association. Everything's growing if I just continue to do what I'm doing. So those are lives that are being touched. And I would say for the most part, it's positive. Now, like we always say, there's not a doctor out there that hasn't fucked somebody up or who doesn't have a patient who believes they've been fucked up. That's the way of this industry. Cosmetic surgery in general. But if you listen to the information that we provide, you have a fighting chance. And honestly, I really believe this. I don't even like to say my channel or my Instagram or my organization. This is our place. It's a community, I was a lone wolf back in 1998 when I wrote when it got published. I was like a young kid, basically, who went out there as a guy to talk about how hair loss mentally almost extinguished me.
Yeah.
And the press was brutal. Forget about social media. The press, so-called reporters. Remember, I was featured in the Washington Post, and this guy said, I had a surprisingly full head of hair like a 1970s game show host. Now think about that. A young kid hearing that.
It's actually kind of a compliment.
It is, and it's not. It's a backhanded compliment. It was a big comb-over 1970s thing. And that stung. I had to take all that shit.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Pretty traumatic when you're young.
It was. Yeah. But you develop a thick skin, you do what you have to do, and we're still here. And the one thing that I know is, thank God, I do not have to hustle hair for an income. I would hate to be in some of these old-timers' positions. Getting on plane, office to office. What?
Yeah. Office to sore backs.
Overextended, unable to pay their fucking bills. I mean, there's some, listen, and I want to make it clear, there's some really good, strong physicians out there who just love what they do. They don't need to work anymore, and they still do it. There's a lot of members of the IHRS who are in that position. There's also a lot of young doctors now in the IHRS who have made smart financial choices.
But just love doing it, yeah.
No, they love doing that, but they, there's one guy in the IHS who is a multi-millionaire from another business.
100-millionaire.
Yeah,
multi-hundred-millionaire.
Planes, trains, automobiles, whatever you think you can buy, this guy's got, and he still goes to work almost every day. I admire that.
He drives around in a '73 Superbug Beetle with a 500 horsepower V8 engine stuffed in the back for fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Guys,
hold on.
We'll take
a
full of his toys.
Yeah. And I admire that. And honestly, I don't have that. I've just never been a baller. There's a time in my life where I enjoyed some of that stuff, like the big homes and the fast cars and all that stuff. And I'm not saying that I got rid of all that shit. But I've just never been a baller. Like, I don't mind, Yeah, I like to fly Mint, and shit like that. I mean, I earned that shit. But I don't need to fly private. I'd rather keep that fucking money.
Yeah.
To me, discipline is power. Discipline is freedom. And a lot of people don't have that discipline, including a lot of fucking doctors, man. 888-659-3727 is the phone number. Let's take a phone call. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, man. Who's this?
It's Avi from Toronto.
I'm sorry, what's the first name?
Avi.
Avi, how are you, man?
What's
up,
Avi?
Good. I'm just at the airport to board a flight to India to eugenics.
No shit.
Yes,
wow.
I figured I'd call on the show, kill some time.
Can we stop you?
No, this is number 3 for me.
Okay.
So
you're going to a well-respected clinic, so that's good.
Of course.
Yep. Thanks to you guys.
Well, you're welcome.
Is this your number 3 with them, or number 3 in general? First one with them.
No, this is first one with them. I did one with Dr. Rahal in 2013. And then,
oh wow,
and I did one with somebody I wish I had never come across, but that was my fault. I was naive. I didn't do my homework.
Who was that and where?
What's that?
Who was
Who
it?
was that and where? You got to tell us that one.
Okay, so it was a clinic called Sure Hair
Oh,
International.
okay. There you go.
And it was Dr. Nelson Ferreira. And look, it could have been a lot worse.
Really?
Well, Nelson Ferreira is actually he's a pretty good doctor in general. What happened?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get much. I mean, it was I ended up with a couple doubles in the quite a few doubles in the hairline, and not much growth.
I'm surprised. I mean, they used to have other physicians, so that's why we're like, oh man. But yeah, Dr. Ferreira is, generally had a pretty good reputation.
Yeah,
and he actually got out of the industry about 2014, not long after, ironically, not long after you were there, coincidentally. For reasons that were completely not because he was trying to get out of the industry, but I mean he had reasons. I think had to do with family that he got out of the industry. But I was actually trying to get him to come back in the industry at one point. Yeah. In a job I used to have. So I'm surprised to hear that. I mean, not entirely, because every doctor out there, no matter how good they're supposed to be, every doctor out there has an AVI where, maybe the hairline didn't look so great, maybe some of the it didn't grow as well as it should have. It's understandable, but surprised it was him. But I'm sorry that it happened to you. But it seems like you're in a better place now. You sound like you're pretty good about things, and you're moving on to number 3. That's good.
Yeah. It's just one of those. I didn't do the research I did going into my second one, so I just I didn't know much about the clinic or Nelson Ferreira. I thought sort of every hair transplant clinic is the same, and very naive, and that's unlike me. But I was going through something personally at the time, and probably a bit vulnerable, and made a quick decision. Nonetheless, yeah.
Well, honestly, that's a very common.
Maybe it could have.
It's a very common issue, man. So there's nothing.
But
I hate when people blame themselves over these mistakes, because listen, we're reared. I just spit on my mic. We're reared to trust doctors. We are under the belief that if these guys have a white coat, that they are only doing what they're doing to first do no harm and to help us. And that is not the reality of this industry, sadly. So don't blame yourself.
I don't know who else can I really blame at that point. Like, I was the one that didn't do the homework. I was the one that jumped into things, right? A bit immature.
All right, you want to blame yourself? I'm trying to get you. I'm trying to make you feel better, man.
Hey, I'm good. Because life was changed after my second one completely. So, I'm in a real good place. Like, it was what it was, but I was able to rebound back from that, and I'm happy. But I figured 10 years, and I've kind of wanted to make some improvements, and I've been very patient. And
good for you. How old are you now?
Sorry?
How old are you now?
46.
Okay, well, so you're still young, man. So it's a good. It's also good time to get some more hair.
Yeah, and I'm on the meds, so I've been on it probably for 10 years as well. So it's pretty stabilized.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad, man. And so you're at the airport right now. You're listening to the Bald Truth while you're waiting to board your plane. And where are you flying from?
From Toronto.
From Toronto.
Yeah.
So that's how long of a flight is that?
It's 15 hours.
15 hours, man. I hope you don't end up sitting next to some animal for 15 hours.
It's all good.
Let me ask you: Did you need a visa to get back there, or is this was it easier for you to get signed up to go there?
So I did need a visa, and when I applied for it, I applied for it before all the stuff in Canada was going on between Canada and India, where they suspended visas. So I had it in my pocket in advance of all that. So.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I've been watching that, and it's pretty ugly.
It is. It's a shame.
Well, brother, listen, we really wish you, first of all, safe travels. We wish you the best of luck. Please give us a call. Let us know about your experience. I'm sure we'll see you all over social media. I'm just kidding. You have to give them permission for that. but they like to do that. But
hey, let me ask you, who are you having your surgery with? Is it Dr. Pradeep, Dr. Erica, or one of their underlings, Dr. Daz?
Yeah, Dr. Das.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, when you get there, tell everyone that Spencer and I said hello.
Yeah.
And have them watch the show every once in a while.
Okay.
Tell them they should tune in.
Well, I'll be there next Friday still, so maybe I'll see if we can get a group call going.
All right. All right, brother.
It'll be pretty late, but yeah, that'll work.
That's true. That's true.
Thank you so much. Yeah, but let them know that Tillman's watching.
Got it.
All right, brother.
Definitely will send that message.
All right.
Yeah.
Good luck,
Listen,
man.
guys, thank you.
Take care.
Thank you very much.
You got
Keep
it.
doing what you
Have a
guys
good
are
flight.
doing. You're helping tons.
Oh, I appreciate you saying that.
Thank you.
Joe just stepped over
All
it, so I can't use it on Instagram or whatever. Take it easy, man. Safe
See you
flight.
now.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care, guys. Bye.
Oh, I'm such a pain in the ass. 888-659-3727. That's 888-659-3727. Toll-free number, guys. The three lines that were just holding on that hung up like literally a minute. The people are so impatient. I guess, some people are calling us from the road or whatever.
That makes sense. They shouldn't be doing it, but, it shows everyone or tells us that they just love calling the show.
They love
or
the
maybe
show.
it's someone that doesn't like us trying to tie up the lines so no one can actually call.
I don't think they're that smart.
No? Okay. Yeah. But I don't know why, but I've been getting a lot more Instagram DMs. Like today I woke up and there was like 34 DMs.
I mention you all the fucking time. I'm always sharing your
thank
stuff.
You and no thank you. Some of it was...
Specs put up a great reel today. It was hilarious.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. I saw
people
that.
People are picking out content now. Finding shit. It's great.
Well, it'd be nice if more people did that, But yeah, for sure.
Well, listen, I mean, sadly, it's just the three of us, man. That's just the way that it is. And there's the three of us, and then
as we were reminded the other day, it's just the three of you.
Here's what I recognized early on. When I first got into the field, right away, there were enemies. And then there was one guy who, loved me, wrote, raving reviews about me, whatever. As soon as I founded the IHRS, he went berserk. That started a whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this famine mentality in this field that I have never experienced in any other business that I'm in. Ever. Now, everyone wants, they're afraid, if you get ahead or if you're more successful, it fucks them up. Or if they feel that, there's going to be less for them. They have that famine mentality. But to me, I always believed, especially in the world of hair, this is an evergreen market if you're just thinking about money. If you're thinking about doctors working with you, if you're thinking about patients looking to get hair transplants or buy products or services, it's evergreen. How can anybody have a famine mentality in this field? I never understood it. So when you became independent, my first thought was, you contacted me, you were asking for some advice about stuff, and I was just like, let's just, whatever. This is what I think you should do. And we just talked about it. I wanted to see you become successful. It's no skin off my back. And same with Specs. Specs contacted me years ago. He wrote his ebook, and he, out of the blue, first he wanted to see how he can get it published, all this stuff. I said, send me the manuscript. I'll read it. I gave him my suggestions. I suggested that he keep it online because it would be this much of a pain in the ass, whatever it was. Didn't know him from Adam. And then when you guys got together for this documentary in the UK and it came out to my house in Calabasas, he asked about it. I'm like, yeah, come on over. I wasn't like I wanted to hide my studio and all of my gear and blindfold you guys when you walk through the fucking house. You know, doctors do that shit, by the way. It's still happening. And Specs contacted me when he got back home, and he asked me about, you know, he was considering doing a show. I'm like, why don't we just do a show together? I think that'll be fun. I already have the infrastructure. I'll show you what to do. I never even thought about, like, competition. It doesn't even enter my mind. You know? And I think that's empowering and it's powerful. And these people don't get it.
No.
Just like, hey, if we all work together for the greater good, guys, we'll take your calls in a second. So hold on. Then we could accomplish a lot. So first it was me against them. And you guys were okay. And then they felt as we started to, they saw us, like Specs promotes us a lot. He's got his own thing in the UK, and he's becoming huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he promotes us a lot. And you have your own thing. And then we started to do the show together. So, of course, you're going to be promoting The Bald Truth. I'm going to be promoting Hair Transplant Mentor. He's going to be promoting Bald Truth UK, and he believes in the IHRS.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's better for people. I mean, that's how it works. So anyway.
I shake my head. I think about...
Guys, hold on. We will take your calls. Go ahead.
8 years ago and earlier, and the battles that were going on, and the jealousy and the envy and just the pure evil that was going on, where people were trying to sabotage each other. It was just psychotic, is what it was.
Honestly, I mean, I can't. I think some of these people look at me and they're like, "How did this guy survive?"
Well, of course they do. But you know, in the situation I was talking about yesterday, that's a holdout from that psychosis.
Oh yeah, that's old school.
That's psychological deviancy of how people have been, you know, back then and apparently even now, look at their position in the industry. You're either with me or you're definitely against me. If you're against me,
but like I said in Global Hair Loss Summit Group, I mean, JC is like the old school OG, you know, online terrorist in this industry as a physician. Like, he took the lead of some of the, you know, the famous online guys, you know, the real, like, extortionists and terrorists out there, and he fucking ran with it. Guys, why'd you hang up? We were going to take your calls. We're just having a conversation. It's a show. Call us back, 888-659-3727. You help us create content, and you help us, your questions and your phone calls help other people, so call us back. But yeah, he's from that old school, like, rip your colleagues' heads off on message forums.
Yeah.
Like vicious, like old school shit, man.
And you know, the strategy behind that, I was thinking about this the other day. It's like, why does he continue to do this in front of the colleagues? It's because whomever he's usually dragging through the mud immediately backs down because they don't have the chops, they don't have the experience of doing such things in front of others. They would be able to much better hold their own if this were all done in private. But once it's taken public in front of their colleagues, they get embarrassed and run away.
Look, even
it's been an effective strategy for them over the years.
Even in private, I was contacted. I don't mind talking about this shit. Whatever, fuck it. I was contacted privately during this thing. Guys, hold on. I'm just going to tell the story real quick. 2 minutes. And this well-known physician basically said, look, I had an issue with this guy. He was working with somebody else. This other person told me years ago that this guy is, I don't want to use the word, but just not well. So if you can somehow, bow out of this situation, you'll probably have to do a lot less stress. And I thanked him for his concern. I'm like, listen, dude, it's totally under control. Yeah. Like, this guy can get in fucking line. This has been happening for years.
Yeah.
I came in swinging at an industry, and they were just like, what the fuck? Who is this kid telling the truth? We can't have the truth out there. We've been concealing the truth since the beginning of time. We can't have the truth out there about our industry. That was the thought process. It still is to some degree. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Hey, it's Trey from Vancouver.
Hey, Trey. What's happening, man?
What up,
Hey,
Trey?
how are you doing?
You know what? I cannot complain.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
So
Good. Just to answer your question about the truth is, people are so scared of the truth because it costs money. Right? Like you're giving people the truth and like maybe think through getting a transplant.
Absolutely.
And that's going to cost all these people money, right? And I mean, what you end up having and what I've seen more and more is all these hair transplants that like in 10 years from now are going to look no better than plugs would have back in the 80s,
That's actually a very lucid and it's a point that a lot of people who are not in the field don't fully understand. So, yeah, that's really well said. That's the truth. Mm-hmm. These kids, I posted something about this woman, and she looks like a lovely, she's like a former model from the UK. She's an attractive woman. She had a couple of kids. It looks like she had some thinning hair. I'm not sure if it was full-on androgenetic alopecia or if she had a higher hairline to begin with as well. But she went to Turkey to a decent doctor, someone who has, a lot of experience. But because all they do in some of these clinics is FUE, they removed 5,000 grafts from the back of this poor woman's head. It was from top to bottom. She had a small head too. And she already had fine hair. So essentially she lost automatically half the density and volume on the back of her head. That's gone. Never to come back. And then put into the, into the hairline, into her eyebrows. And yeah, the hair did grow in. I think it's a reasonable result so far. But the entire volume and movement of her hair will never be the same. And if she continues to progress, or if she has another child, or once she hits menopause, she's finished. Finished. And this is what's being done, and this is what's being revered online. And I put it out there, and I had some people like in the plastic surgery industry and whatever it is saying, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. This result looks fine. This person is going to be happy, this and that. I'm not trying to hurt this person's feelings, and I hope that everything works out for her. But it's an example, especially in a woman, of what not to do to yourself. So that's the reality. So, yeah, that was a really great point. I'm sorry to go off on a tangent. So what's up, man?
Yeah, no, and I think in like a lot of the times, like from what I can see online, you see people and they're obviously euphoric. They've just got their transplants done, and I think there's a bit of bias too. They want it to be the result that they want, so it's like,
of course,
in 6 months or a year from getting it done, they're posting and they're like, "Oh, I couldn't be happier with my results." But you rarely hear like the 3 to 5 or even like 5 to 10 year kind of sob stories where really they're just left with plugs. Like as the hair loss gets worse, a lot of the time it's you can see it, and it's not to. I totally understand the mindset of those people, right? And I'd probably be the same myself, but I think it's just that kind of wanting it to work, and then not kind of having the foresight to see that really in 10 years from now you could end up with basically plugs. Like hopefully it's a bit better than that, but I've seen, and again, this is not to insult anybody, but I've seen a lot of really bad transplants recently because I've been considering it myself. So I'm kind of more attuned to looking out for it. And it's like, it scared me, honestly. I'm like, I don't want to end up like that, I just feel bad for those people because they're probably oblivious that it looks the way it actually does,
Well, they are oblivious, and it should scare you, and that's the reason we do what we do. That's it. We want people to have the reality, and also they have to understand their long-term goals. And, the way that it's being marketed now online, it's marketed like other cosmetic procedures or plastic surgery. If you get a chin put into your body, if it works out, that shit stays there for life for the most part. Not much is going to change. Maybe there would be some reabsorption to the bone, not with these newer implants like it used to be. But, that's it. Once the swelling goes down, that's what you look like. You get cheek implants, which all these things probably aren't good for you. Or if you get even a boob job. For the most part, that's what it's going to look like for a decade or more if it works out. And so the results after the swelling goes away, those are your results. So it's marketed and put online. These people and women that think they're getting it done, they think it's just like that. And they forget, they're not told that, listen, this is a moving target. This is a unique procedure. We have to look at the long game. This is not your final result. When you're 25 years old walking around with this hair, this is not what you're going to be walking around with when you're 40. If you can walk around with the same chin, but you're not going to be walking around with the same hair. And that's my whole point. This is such a unique form of cosmetic surgery, and it's marketed like it's just like anything else. So, yeah, you're very astute, man, and I'm glad you're taking your time.
I think the thing is they're marketing to desperation, right? And again, I'm saying that as somebody who has experienced that and still does to a certain degree. Like I'm a little bit older than these 24-year-olds, and I know when I was like 19 and I first. That whole thing where you're looking in the mirror and you're like, am I going? No, I can't be going bald. And again, even with that, you don't want to allow yourself to believe that your hair is as bad as it is. And I totally get that.
Dude, I was 21 or 22 when I was offered a hair transplant from the grand poobah of hair transplant surgery. Talk about being vulnerable. I was so fucked up. But somehow I stepped back with no guidance and I realized there's something wrong here. And you just seem like that type of kid anyway. Even though you found the program, you probably would have been more cautious to begin with anyway.
I don't know, honestly. I think you guys are the only people in the game who are speaking out against it, and like even you go onto Reddit and I don't want people showing up at my house and knocking down the door. So I'm not saying this to like be disrespectful because like I'm part of that community and I appreciate that community, but like you go on those different forums and people just they're talking about like how great it is and you rarely, like at least I rarely see people saying like, hey, this could be an absolute nightmare for you, and this could be so much worse than what you're afraid of.
Sure.
If it goes wrong.
Well, look, I respect all these communities, and I think that it's interesting and it's great that people are sharing, and I wish that I had access to something like that when I was young. But also, I'm glad that, I'm still doing what I'm doing. Joe keeps dragging me, he's somehow shooting me up with drugs every day to get me into this chair, and I'm making it happen.
And that's a trick.
Because even though our audience is, it's mediocre in size, because listen, the truth doesn't necessarily sell in that respect, but we have a very strong, we have very strong core, and we're lucky enough to reach thousands of people every month. So if it's 5,000 people whose life we change every month, that's huge,
Definitely.
So I feel great about it, and I'm glad that you're one of them.
Yeah.
I did want to ask as well when it comes to I'd actually called a few weeks back and again like thank you both for like you've been really helpful and kind of like getting the information out there that for me personally has been kind of helpful in figuring out next steps and if I'm going to do anything or not. But one of the things I've definitely been considering taking finasteride and minoxidil. But one of the things, again, through going down some of the forum rabbit holes I've seen is kind of growing breasts, basically, from finasteride. Now, I know it's probably overhyped, but I'm just wondering, like, how common is that? Is that something to even be worried about?
Why do you think Joe wears black every day?
Think about Joe. We want to see him.
It's to hide the bra straps.
Dude, I'm almost 60. I still have pretty good pecs. So no, I mean, look, it happens. It does happen. I mean, there are those who suffer from
Pecs,
gyno,
breasts, tomato.
Yeah, whatever. It is one of the rarer side effects.
Moobs.
I would say that in moobs. I would say that in my almost 30 years, and especially the first decade or so when I was on the actual radio, when we had a lot of people listening, there was only one case of gyno to the point where the guy had to stop and actually get correction. But it happened. I never forget this guy, Steve from New York, Steve from Long Island. That was who he was. He was a really nice kid. He took a chance. It worked for him, but he grew tits, man. That's it. Now, I do think that it tends to happen more to men who experience this to some degree in puberty, and they may already have like the little buds going, slight puffy nipples already, and then it just explodes.
Yeah.
I've seen this once in my clinical career, and the guy made the decision to push forward, and he had the gland removal procedure, and he was having an amazing response to the medication where it counts. So while he was having that side effect, he decided to deal with it, push through. He did deal with it, and he was happy with it. He was happy with his decision. It was
good for him.
I got to admit, at the time, I was kind of surprised. It's like, that's actually a treatment. Okay. And he did it, and he was happy with it.
Well, I mean, who knows what's going to happen to me once I get on the juice in a few years. I'm holding off for my hair, but I mean, I'm starting to feel it, man. I'm starting to feel my age a little bit in the gym, and I'm just like, God, just a little bit of testosterone, my life would change. I'd be everything. I watch these guys; their skin changes like on their body, and they just get vascular. Mm-hmm. But I can't. I want to produce my own for as long as I can. Maybe I'll be 65.
I believe in you, Spencer.
Thank you. I appreciate that, man.
I believe you can do this.
And
I believe you can do this.
For the record, I love breasts, just not on me. So I think that's my only concern. But it sounds like it's pretty. It sounds like it's pretty rare. And I'm guessing if it was a side effect, as soon as you stop taking it, it goes away.
Well, you would feel it right away.
If it happened to me, I'd never leave the house. But just saying,
Yeah, you would feel it.
I wouldn't even have to.
Yeah, Tinder. You wouldn't have to go to Tinder. Pornhub would be a thing of the past. But the hub, as they call it. What was I going to say? Yeah, you would actually start to feel the tenderness even before it became like a permanent thing. So the swelling would begin. You would feel it, and as soon as you get off the medication, it like 99.99% of the time, it subsides. But once you hit a certain point, and that gland, the fatty tissue and the glands start to actually form, then you're in trouble.
Okay.
So, but as soon as you pop the pill, you're going to start to feel your tits growing. I know it. That's just the way it is. It's in your head already.
Well, I guess we'll just deal with it when it comes, and could be a good thing. Who knows?
Yeah. It's unlikely. We're not doctors. It's an unlikely side effect. It does happen, but it's
extremely rare.
It's pretty rare, man. It's pretty rare. Like most people who call are worried about, not being able to get it up. You're worried about the tit thing.
Yeah. I mean, that might help with the first problem, but.
All right, brother. Listen, we're going to take some calls. Is there anything else that you need?
No, that's everything. Thanks a lot, guys.
You're a great caller, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks for
We
calling.
appreciate you.
Have a
Take
good
care.
one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Guys, the phone number is 888-659-3727. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, Spencer and Joe, Nicholas. This is Nicholas Cole, Dr. Cole's son. How you guys doing?
Nicholas Cole, what's happening, my man?
Hello, Nick.
It's really nice to hear from you. What can we do for you?
How you been,
Hey,
man?
first off, I just wanted to, I'm doing well, guys. Thanks for asking. First off, I just wanted to say, I think you guys do a pretty good job. I personally tried to cut a video the other day.
Pretty good.
About, well, damn good. Fine work, boys.
Thank you.
Fine work. Anyway, so I personally tried to cut a video the other night talking about derma rolling. It took me 30 takes. So the fact that you guys are able to do it so fluid on the air like this, pretty impressive. But I just want to kind of get ahead on things. I know there's some things being said.
You can learn. It's easy to do, man. You get better as you keep practicing.
Yeah, exactly.
Practice makes perfect.
Right on, Joe. Anyway, guys, so I know there's some things being said about my dad. I just want to kind of get ahead of them, kind of speak to you guys. One thing I noticed you were in this current show, kind of calling him a bully, and kind of circling back. He does challenge the industry, and well, let me start with how this whole thing kind of kicked off. You know, we had 5 patients come in, and it just so happened to be an unlucky week where we had 5 patients, and they went to the doctors that were recommended on your forum, and you know, they weren't happy. 2 of them were coming in for procedures, 3 of them had consultations. They weren't happy with the results. It's not like I get that on a common basis, but he wanted to kind of voice his concerns as far as, you know, are we vetting these guys properly? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. But initially the number was 2, and then it turned
3.
Then it was the same week.
Yeah,
then it was
2,
3,
yeah.
and now all of a sudden it's 5. So just telling you, I mean, then he said it was 5. So just to give you the
Well, I know. So I know. I personally spoke with 3 of them. I confirmed 3 of them. I had 2 in for procedures, and I had 1 knock out a consultation.
All right. And I just want to, just so you know, Nick, and again, you know, these guys have to have time, but the reality of this industry, and you've been kind of involved in it, but you know, you obviously, you know, listen, you love your dad and you work with your father, and I appreciate that. But the reality is that in this field, the best physicians have really fucked up patients. I mean, I'm talking about they are fucked up for life. Now, we know that there have been situations that were very unfortunate, you know, with your dad's practice over the years, just like everybody else's practice. So, you know, my whole thing is in life, you know, people in glass houses really should not throw stones. Now, I understand the reality of the industry and the situation. I've known your dad for a very long time. What's unfortunate about your dad is sometimes he can't step back from a situation, take a deep breath, and just have a conversation with somebody before he just, I mean, literally loses his shit. And I think that he needs to kind of, you know, be a little bit more introspective and kind of have a better understanding of, you know, how his colleagues are, and maybe he should reach out to his colleagues, because he has to understand that there's only so much that Joe and I can do, and there's only so much about this industry that, you know, we have to choose the best doctors out of a group of thousands of really shitty doctors who are doing a lot of damage. So it's our goal to provide people with a safe starting point to do their due diligence. No one comes to me for it. There are no consultations on the IHRS. That's the one thing. I will never sell a surgery. That's not what we do. And our message is surgery is a last resort. And I think that is something that kind of, for whatever reason, it always slips your dad's mind, especially when he gets mad. And, you know, what I also find interesting is that he contacted me about his direct competition. And I was just like, all right, whatever it is. It's in his mind somehow that there was some sort of vindictive move or something that's why these guys were accepted into the organization. Well, these guys were part of our organizations and my organization when your dad presented me with a fucking Lifetime Achievement Award. He was on my show 100 times. He was singing our praises of what incredible work we do. All these doctors are part of what we do. None of them are added since that point. So I just want you to have this information before you continue. I'll let you have the floor.
So circling back, I know the position you're speaking of. It's when it comes down to it, I think what he was preaching was why don't you kind of you're talking about you kind of conserve with your funds. He was suggesting probably traveling to clinics, looking how they do the operation, checking the density,
Wait a second.
and maybe provide a ranking. No different than like
you just said something about being
sort of
concerned. You just said something about being concerned about funds. This is what's interesting, and I told your dad this. In the history of the IHRS, I have never, ever had to draw a salary from the organization in almost 22 years. So your dad could do the math on that. So I don't have to make a living of any kind from the organization. And I think that's a value for people to hear because, trust me, your dad doesn't do anything for free. And if he does, it's just every once in a while. We provide stuff to consumers for free for 30 years. So whether I have 100 doctors or 30 doctors or 20 doctors or 15 doctors, my life doesn't change, Nicholas. And I think your dad knows that, but he always forgets it. So go ahead.
Well, so what I'm circling back to is the ones that are on the recommended board. Just kind of check out the process. What are they storing the grass in? Going back to densities, and then providing like a sports team. After every football game, you kind of got a ranking. Where are you in the seat for the championship or the playoffs? And when people hop on the show, you ask you about a doctor, and the references there. No doctor's perfect, but they are on my recommended list.
I don't have a recommended list. Your dad made that up. I don't have a recommended list. I have an organization that's actually looked at as a real society where in order to practice in Dubai, you have to be a member of the IHRS. That we're the only organization in the world that's endorsed by Consumers Digest, Consumer Reports, WebMD, Dermatology Times. So your dad is under the impression, and he gives you this impression that it's somehow like we're running a fucking candy store here. This is a society. It's a real organization, and that's how it's looked at by the real world, but not the small group of people in your industry. So since you're in the industry now, you should know all this so that you're well versed.
Right. So let me circle back to the hair transplant, the hair transplant channel. So I know it's a combination of you, Spencer. I'm sorry, you, Joe, and Spencer Stevens, right?
It's Joe's channel.
It has nothing to do with the hair transplant channel. It's Specs has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, it's Joe's channel, and I just turn on my camera once a week and let him air the show through his channel because I don't want to deal with it.
What, and does Joe have a recommended list?
Joe has what is it? An organization?
It's an organization, yeah.
Yeah.
Doctors seek me out. They want to be a part of what I do. And the smart ones actually carry the message forward and utilize it for their own patient education resources. And I'm not sure why you keep going back to quote unquote recommended lists. What's your point, Nick? It's
not his fault. Listen, I just want to say that Nick, I'm going to give you the floor. I'm going to give you the floor completely in a second. I want to make it clear. How old are you, Nick? By the way.
27.
Okay. You're young. It's your dad. You love him. You listen to what he has to say. And you should. You should support him. Even the guy's fucking wrong, you should support him. And I respect that. But since you're in the industry, you have to know the truth so that at least when you're making decisions, say you're not working with your dad, you could understand every aspect of everything. So go ahead.
Mm-hmm. All right, so the organization, right? And in order to be a part of the organization, you have to be vetted, right?
Correct.
And that's a combination of photos, as well as I think Joe mentioned in the last show. Would you compare it to again, Joe, as far as like taking your writing an essay or something of that nature?
I don't remember. Yeah. Yeah, there's a doctor in the UK that said it's like writing his thesis for medical school. Exactly, perfect.
So I know you guys get photos, but as far as when you're vetting them, how are the hairline shots? Are they pushing the hair forward? Are you forcing them to kind of come up straight back? How many results are you acquiring on these things?
I spend. I'll go ahead and address this. I spend on average 4 to 6 months with each clinic if they don't have their photos and video done correctly. As you probably remember, when your father, I don't know if you were around when your father first, or when he came on board in 2019, I think. I spent a lot of time trying to get the right photos out of your pop, and with Ronan. And that's about how much time I spend with most people, trying to get the right angles without using flash. And if they can present photos of hairlines that are not just pulled back, but pulled back without tension. In other words, a natural hairstyle where the hairline is visible without pulling it back with tension. That's even better. But it depends on the case. But ultimately, the hairlines do have to be visible in the before-after presentation, whether it be video, whether it be a photographic presentation, because that is important. That's what I need to be able to see. But even more than that, I ask my particular membership to send me the original raw photos that have not been processed, that have not been edited, that have not been scaled down to fit more properly on a website for page load speed, that kind of thing. Because I want to be able to zoom in and look at each individual follicle if and where possible.
I'm going to jump in here. I think it's important. I just want, there's no reason that, and I know that you don't feel this way, Joe, but you don't have to explain shit. You are one of the premier experts of this fucking field. And, I started this entire process more than 30 years ago. And when your dad called me and said that he could transplant circles around everyone in my book, meaning that why wasn't he included in the book? It took a long time before we brought him on board. It took over a year before we brought him on board. At that time, the same year, I turned down Jerry Wong because his images weren't clear enough and he couldn't get enough patients to contact me. This is the way we've been operating for an extremely long time. And your dad, for whatever reason, doesn't want to believe that. He somehow believes that, I could just speak for my case, that this is about income. When I have hundreds, and Joe has seen them, I could reveal them at some point, of applications. If I just wanted to create a society and take everybody's money, that opportunity is there for me. And your dad doesn't seem to accept that reality. I don't know why. So we keep it small for a reason, because in general, the best results overall, there's a scale, are coming from this group of doctors consistently. And there's other doctors out there that I'm sure who have not applied that are doing great work. And some of these guys who have applied that your dad is very friendly with, I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. That's the reality. So I'm very fortunate to be in a position where I can turn down money. I don't have to sell, bullshit, biologics and products and services that we know don't work for patients just to make a fucking living and pay my rent.
And I have to inject into this is the fact that neither of us actually solicit membership from any of these doctors. It's been very rare since I've been doing what I do that I actually approach a doctor and say, "Hey, you need to be a part of what I do."
I've never picked up the phone. It
is 98% of everyone that I have on my website came to me first, because I'm not that kind of person that's soliciting for more business. Contrary to what your father said plenty of times recently, I'm not greedy. I want to do. I started doing this slowly from the start because I knew it would be easy. It would be so easy, Nick, to just take the short and easy route, and hustle laser caps and combs and all these lotions and potions and all this bullshit. I didn't do that.
Right.
I could be making a lot more money right now than I am if I had taken a different route. I wanted to do things right. And the great thing about what I have been doing is I've been consistent from the very beginning. I've visited clinics. I still visit clinics. I actually got a few I'm going to be visiting soon. And I use my clinical experience, having worked with some of the best in the world, that you know them very well. You know their qualifications. And I utilize my standards based on having been a repair patient with shitty work, being turned around by Dr. Wong. The last thing I want to do is put people at risk. But ultimately, everyone's at risk if they're going to get cut. Doesn't matter who they go to. Doesn't matter the procedure. Shit happens.
You know, your dad.
You know that just as well as I do.
Your dad, it's interesting because we were talking about a Turkish physician in particular. And, there was one Turkish physician who's part of the IHS that got a lot of shit on other areas, other places online. And I guess something had gone wrong at some point in his practice. And I think this is maybe before we brought him on. I don't remember. But, it was unfortunate what was happening. A lot of large sessions, tech-driven, all this stuff. All the stuff that your dad is now somehow speaking against. But all of a sudden, he's in this guy's clinic. They're best friends. They're doing all types of videos. They're promoting the shit out of him and saying this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. But this particular clinic, who has a lot of success, does large sessions on a regular basis using technicians. But your dad's great with that. Absolutely great with that. And there have been complaints, like with any other clinic, similar to the one that you your dad recently brought up. So to me, it's the hypocrisy, it's the glass houses, and beyond that, this should all be private. This should all be something that if your dad sees a problem with one of his colleagues' patients, pick up the phone and say, hey, look, I saw this patient. This is the issue. It's going to be difficult to repair. Did you know this is the situation? This is what doctors should do. That's it. Have the patient contact us. We could help to adjudicate any situation between, and that's part of what the IHRS does, to give patients a fighting chance if they got screwed up. I had a situation with your dad and a patient, and it was a terrible situation. And, it ended up going public because your dad reneged on this guy. But these people came to me to help to adjudicate a situation they were unhappy with. I'm not blaming your dad for anything. Shit happens. And your dad said, yeah, you know what? I'll make sure that I take care of this guy and we'll give him a refund. And I really feel bad about the situation. Then all of a sudden he reneged on it and says, you know what? I did the work. He knew what he was getting into. I'm not giving him the money. And then this guy goes online and, says what he says. All unnecessary shit based on poor decision making.
Is this in reference to that RP guy?
That's one of them, but yeah, that's a good reference. Yes.
Yeah. So basically, it was a body hair procedure. He did a bunch of free work for the guy to start off with. The guy was happy with the result. We were taking some form of body hair, and then he's like, "Well, I want to do more." My dad said, "I'm not doing this one for free."
Were you there?
Experimental.
Were you there?
No, he passed the story along with me, and I'd like to relay the story.
No, you can, sure. I'm just asking if you were there because you have to know, and this is he's your dad.
I was a young man. I think I was probably like 12 years old, maybe younger.
You should love your dad, but the stories aren't always, everyone, there's two sides to every story, and then there's the truth.
Yep.
Just remember that. Go ahead.
All right. Well, you shared your portion. I like to kind of share
You're
our
welcome
side
to.
of the story, or his side. Anyway, so it was a bunch of free work, right? He comes back, says, I'd like to do it again. This time, let's take leg hair, let's take chest hair, let's take back hair. And he pretty much told the guy, I don't know if this is going to work. This is an area I haven't done before. I'll knock it out, but we're taking a gamble. He's like, the last one worked just fine. Let's do it. Just do it. Don't worry about it. It's my dad's money. The worst case scenario, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Well, it just so happened not to work. And then the guy comes battering down the door and said, hey, you didn't. My result didn't come out the way I wanted to. And as we discovered with body hair back in 2004, we didn't know it only worked on 1 out of 4 patients. We were just one of the unfortunate clinics where we had 4 great results the first 4 times we did it. So we thought, oh man, we found a great alternative source.
Well, your dad actually told me a completely different story. I just want to let you know that, and I have a lot of it in writing. So I'm not saying that he wasn't defending himself, but the story is much different than what he told you. And, I keep all the receipts, Nick, and I just, It's just the way that it is. It could be a faulty memory, whatever. Who knows why the story's changed? But that wasn't the story. And it doesn't make a difference. None of it makes a difference. But when a man gives his word to somebody and says he's going to do something, he does it. And your dad changed his mind in the last minute, and then that's why, sadly, this guy felt he had no recourse.
So I'd like to ask a question here, Nick. I'd like to ask you your opinion of, and why you think that your father sent death threats to me.
Well, I know that wasn't on the public message board. As far as the death threats, I don't know why you'd block out his name on a WhatsApp message if it was a private one. But as far as the public field, I didn't see any death threats. So right now, from my point of view, it's a he said, she said moment.
I posted the screenshots with your father's name, where he's
making
death threats.
When I watched the video,
I can do it again. Want me to pull it up?
Yeah,
I can show you. Are you watching?
Give me 1 second.
I almost feel bad that his dad is having him call.
I know.
I don't want to have an argument with his kid.
I'm kind of doing this in my own fruition.
Well, Nick,
but to kind of give you a rundown, what I wanted to wrap up with you and you guys was, I mean, he's pretty livid. I know you guys are pretty livid. I just wanted to kind of soothe things over at the end of the day, and see if we can't start making content that isn't attacking each other. I've already got like 10 videos. I'll push him away from any kind of verbal abuse on his end, and I just like to kind of keep it civil.
It's up to your dad.
Well, all I've done here, Nick, is share the facts that occurred as they unfolded that are also documented. So I'm going to just go ahead and put this up on the screen on my phone. Let's see if it. I got to zoom in here a little bit. Hold on a second. So people can see this.
Your light just went off, dude.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah. So all right. So you can see that John Cole is right there, right?
I see it.
John Cole. So I see it. I can't read it. But, I mean, you have my WhatsApp number. Predictable. I remember. Duck,
yeah.
Dude, you know your enemy, like you made him bad.
So let me pull
I mean, it's hard to read, though, but I'll...
No, hang on. I'm going to make it easier, okay? So I'm pulling up on my laptop so I don't have to keep looking at it to read it myself. So, all right. So I'm going to do this. Let's go ahead and. All right. All right. Okay. You can see that. Predictable. I remember just like last week in this group, you mentioned how some of your colleagues were afraid to speak up against Spencer for fear of retribution. No proof was shared. Ironic that in 2017, after I turned your first application for membership down, you went on the warpath publicly on a forum denigrating myself and Spencer. Oh, and you also threatened retribution again. Yeah, it's Spencer your colleagues are afraid of, because your father was saying that all of his colleagues were afraid of Spencer.
Well, here's what I find fascinating, Nick. I mean, you don't know this, but in the almost 30 years I've been doing this, and your dad's given me a lot of shit over the years, there hasn't been one time, publicly or privately, until this particular moment, that I even gave your dad any shit, or anybody in this who were ever part of my organization.
So hold on.
Unlike all
let's
these
get
other
let's get to the meat of the
assholes.
matter. Okay, so as I scroll down to the bottom, you can see John Cole. All right, it's there in the screen. And you can see where he says, "Your problem is very simple. You help people for money. I help people without expectation. Hence, you do not care about people. Thus, I can destroy you. I will do this. I wish you had not taken on this enemy, but now you have to die. I cannot allow bad people like you to survive. You must die." That's right there, black and white, still on my phone. Receipt has been kept. So there's nothing being hidden. That's the raw version right there. The reason why I took out Spencer's name with that screenshot was because it wasn't about Spencer. It was about me. I didn't want there to be any distractions with what I was talking about.
Look, this is all you have to...
your father No, hang on. I removed your father as a hair transplant mentor member because of conduct unbecoming of a doctor, the way that he was insulting me and then in the same breath complimenting me and then going back to insulting me, saying that while we do nothing, and I'm paraphrasing, lives are harmed because of our inaction, basically, that we were responsible for the bad work being done out there. And that's highly insulting. And I saw the writing on the wall. I'd already talked to your father once on the phone last week about the way that he was speaking in this public group of roughly 120, maybe 100, 120 doctors. And because he decided to continue to have this issue in front of his colleagues, I was left with no choice to remove him. And that's when I became public enemy number one. And about maybe half an hour later, I started getting those death threats. I must die, Nick. What the hell?
Look.
So I'd really like to know what your father thinks that he has to be mad about with me when I'm reacting to his death threats. I've done nothing wrong.
Well, now, I hear what you're saying as far as death threats, but in my opinion, that's more like as like the show, the operation of the organization. I don't think that was that by no means was an attack on your life. But I do know I did get that call from the Alpharetta Police Department. That was a minor inconvenience. I thought it was because I parked in the handicap spot. So I just want to share that. But yeah, I'm sorry that happened to you, Joe.
But you do know that a minor inconvenience like that could end up being a major inconvenience to the point where things could be really not great. You know, this is a real thing. The fact that the police took time to contact your office, even if it was just a phone call initially, that means it was taken seriously. So this is a really serious issue. Now, listen, you said something interesting, and I appreciate that, Nick. That you're like, well, you want things to simmer down. That's all up to your father. It always has been. Everything your dad does, it's all self-inflicted wounds. I have never stricken back against your father in any way, shape, or form. That's not my style.
Yeah,
your dad doesn't. It doesn't really bug me. I read the shit that your dad writes, and to me, they're the rants of a lunatic. I'm sorry to tell you, man. That's just the reality of what it is. But because your dad has good hands, and because there's so few surgeons in this field that I feel comfortable enough to even include in the organization, I don't want to take that opportunity away from patients and give them a fighting chance just because your dad's a prick. That's not how I want. That's not how I operate. And I've made that very clear. But I mean, Jesus, the guy he can't work well with others. Do you know? And this is not again. I keep all the receipts. The number of people who contacted us behind the scenes after that whole debacle, saying, "Look, this is a definite spiral. There's an issue. There's always been an issue with John. This, that, and the other thing." And I'm just like, "Look, it is what it is. What am I going to do? I can't do anything about it."
Yeah.
It's all up to your dad. The ball is in your dad's court.
I'll say this, Nick. I'll say two things. First off, this could have completely been eliminated had your father not gone over the line with the death threats. His rantings, I usually ignore them anyway, just like Spencer said. And he does do this. So he's been known to do this. But I got to ask you, aside from the death threats, do you think it was justified for him, the moment that I removed him as a member of my website, do you think it was justified for him to go on a rampage and call me a loser, which is fine, say how he's going to destroy my business, destroy the business of the doctors that I work with, and make sure that I don't work again? Like, how is that justifiable just because I told him I don't want to work with him anymore? How does that work?
Well, yeah, so at the end of the day, I mean, as far as how does that work, I'm sorry that happened to you, Joe, this bottom line. and that this event transpired. I know we both want the same thing, which is to prevent patients from getting butchered at the end of the day. And all he's trying to do is push the industry towards a better practice. And he's upset. I know he's pretty much, I'm sure he's upset to lost you as a friend, as a colleague. And, it just kind of pushed him over the edge at the end of the day.
Nick, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that didn't have to happen. All I did was say, I don't want to, we're done. I don't want to work with you anymore. And he lost his shit and said, we can't be friends anymore. And I'm thinking to myself, why can't... I am so cool with so many people that have turned down their membership. And even doctors that are no longer members, like Dr. Karadena, my very first member. Last year when I was in Turkey, we had lunch together and caught up. Hell of a nice guy.
So wait a second.
There was no reason for him to say that, much less take this position.
So Nick, are you telling me that your dad's not upset that we're not friends anymore?
Yeah, well, I mean, why not? I'm pretty sure that was the pushing factor on the last set of messages. It's not. It's. I mean, again, like what you're saying, you want to keep patients from going to the wrong area, and all we're trying to do as a collective is change people's lives for the better, and drive them in a certain route where they don't make mistakes like we've seen as far as so many horror stories.
Right. So tell your dad. I'm just saying,
I'm sorry to lost you guys. That's for sure.
So tell your dad to somehow come to terms with the reality of this industry that he's in. And there's what we do as a collective. He said something interesting, and I said, look, John, and this is in your public group, I touch more lives. I keep more people out of harm's way in my fucking boxer shorts with my smartphone than he could ever do in his entire career. He doesn't understand that concept. His whole thing, recommended lists, people pay, this and that. People pay to be in every organization. You want to be on the ISHRS website, you got to pay your fucking dues. They work on volume because they take anybody. That's the way of the fucking world. Every meeting he goes to, he has to pay to be there. That is the way of the world. And what we charge, what is it, $20 a day, $30 a day, maybe? It's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. How much does your dad charge for a TED procedure? Which we know is questionable at best. I mean, think about the logic of your father and what he puts out there for public consumption. So, you're coming to us, and I'm glad that you called. It's important that this gets out there. But this is up to your dad. That's it. Right. Stop the craziness. Shut the fuck up. And do the right thing, because he has an opportunity. If he really wants to help people, that's what we do. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's my message to your father. I respect his surgical skills. He's got good hands. He's helped a lot of people in that respect. Certainly would never have sent Morty his way if that wasn't the case. But for Christ's sake, man, this guy's got to get a fucking grip.
No, yeah, I understand where you guys come from. But I will say, as far as regenerative medicine, I mean, I know you guys aren't big proponents of it, but when it's done right, it is effective.
It's not that I'm not a proponent of it. I am a proponent of it. I just think that currently there's not enough data to charge people what they're being charged. That's it. You should not be experimenting on paying patients.
I understand the costs are high on that, but it's something that I really don't have control over. It's what the companies are relaying on to me. Like exosomes, there's only so few manufacturers. I can't control what they want to charge for it, unless more and more physicians start picking up on it, and hopefully we can start mass producing it. But I mean, I've had a beard result come in where we started playing on topical exosomes to extraction sites, and 4 days post-op, all you could see was a little bit of what do you call it? Flaking of the skin. All the scabs were gone. It was impressive.
Well, look, I'm not. Listen, I know. I have someone in my personal life who had, he's done very well in PRP, had exosomes, the whole thing did fine. I'm not saying that this stuff can't work. All I'm saying is, This is a field, and it's surprising to me that your father doesn't understand this, where mistakes are made, where people are worried about paying for their fucking Mercedes payments. They may be making bad choices. His best friends, guy that he loves, lost his fucking license for being a drug addict. I mean, probably performing surgery when he was on fucking pills. So he has no problem turning the other cheek, looking the other way for all that happy horse shit. But his major concern is, I think his concern is he's like, well, Kobren is fucking loaded. He doesn't like the fact that this is passive income. He doesn't like the fact that I don't give a shit. And that's part of the equation. It's not just about helping people. There's an anger and a meanness that comes out of your father that I think is not only is it inappropriate, I don't know how great that is for patients. I'm going to be honest with you. It doesn't mean that it's something that his hands are broken, but who the fuck knows? I don't know what's going on behind the scenes in his office. I don't know if he goes on a bender and comes in and then, performs surgery. I have no fucking clue. That's the reality of the situation, Nick. I think you're a good kid. And I don't mean to patronize you by calling you a kid, but you're young enough to be my son. And I appreciate the fact that you're willing to stand up for your father. I respect that. I would do the exact same thing. So let's just move forward.
Yeah, I'd like to, if you guys don't mind. I'd really like to move forward. Let's. Is there a way we can kind of be civil about this going forward?
It's up to your dad.
All right.
It's
all right.
Been civil from the start, as far as I'm concerned, Nick. And you and I had a great talk, and I'm glad that we had that talk back in Istanbul last year. It was good to talk to you, and I got to tell you that I respect you calling in like this. At no point have I ever questioned or criticized your father's hands, his surgical ability. Not once. Not even come close, because I was very clear, especially yesterday. I was very clear. It's not about that. But the judgment that he exercised, or the lack thereof, with his outbursts in the group and then his outburst towards me, it wasn't the first time. It was the first time it went that far, but it wasn't the first time. And I decided enough. So it's been civil.
Right. It's
been civil.
I could say this, that and this is my hope. I know FU Europe is coming up. I know that I've already spoken to a physician who your dad has spoken to at length, who wrote something exactly similar to what your father wrote me. It was interesting, I have to say the least. I don't want your dad continuing to badmouth me to his colleagues. That's it. I have never, ever done that to your father.
Yeah.
I've never retaliated against your father in any way. That's not my style. I don't need to do that shit. I don't need to. So this is all in your dad's court. But I will say that he did cross the line that he can't cross back now. So yeah. I'm more than open to, just things being, easy and less stressful for Joe and all that stuff. But honestly, if your dad continues down this route, it's just not good. It's not good for anybody. It's certainly not good for the patients who we are able to touch their lives every day through social media, through this program, no matter what your father tells you when he's angry. You change the field. Your father wrote this. It's on his old website, that it was because of me. He wrote this, that he started to do FUE. I just found his old website the other day. I have a screenshot of it. Now, that is taken out of his history on his current website, but that's what he had on his old website. I remember talking your dad through it, telling him exactly what Rob Jones was doing. Your dad taking an interest in it, telling him about Alan Bauman, who invented the Mindex. Every step of the way of your dad becoming a pioneer in FUE. was because I piqued his interest and continued to push the envelope and make sure, look, you should do this, man. Look at what Bill Rasmussen's doing. Bob Bernstein, they're about to publish a paper. Your dad did it, and he took the ball with it, and he figured it out with his colleagues and with his technicians, and he helped to change the field. But that would not have happened if we didn't have this platform, if I didn't have access to Ray Woods. Your dad forgets all of that. That's what changed the field. That's the true history of what happened. So, yeah, if your dad is willing to just, walk away and just fucking live his life, whatever. He has the choice to do whatever the fuck he wants. Does that make sense?
Yeah, everything's clear, man. Yeah, everything's clear.
All right, brother.
Awesome, guys. I don't know what else to go into, but I do appreciate your time. And again, it's nice seeing what you do. It's keep up the good work.
Well,
okay?
I will say one thing. The one thing that I could tell that John was a good father. He brought up some good kids. I can tell that your sister is a really nice girl as well. So at least he did that right. All right, brother. Thanks for the call.
Likewise.
Nick, thanks for calling.
Take care.
And, take care of yourself.
Thank you.
Well, it was an interesting show, I have to say.
That's one for the books, yeah.
And it was a lot of fun.
Again, credit to Nick for picking up the phone. It wasn't easy for him to do. Respect. But it is what it is, and I think you said it best. You cross a line that you can't go back over, and that's true. All he had to do was not do what he did. That last push over the line to me, and none of this would have happened. But I think it's important to ask that question when he was on the show, or before he left, was even if that line hadn't been crossed, does it make sense for him to lose his actual shit and explode on me, remove me and you and others from the group, and then continue after the fact? Because Nick doesn't know this, most likely, but we know that after we were removed, Dr. Cole repeated the claim that he was blocked on Bald Truth Talk when the explanation was there.
Oh, that was another funny one. I explained to him.
That was another funny one.
It's like, you weren't blocked. Your guy used a what is it called? A profile that has 5 posts in 14 years. The system just blocks it as spam. As soon as his guy Ronan contacted us, he's like, "Are we banned from the forum?" Like, what are you talking about? And I had it checked out. And 10 minutes later, it was approved.
It was cleared. Yeah,
so he's claiming that there was some sort of retribution. And he also claimed, this is hilarious, that I was going to, I spoke about retaliating against one of his colleagues. That he had a conversation. I have the entire conversation in this phone, every receipt. I contacted his colleague and I said, look, I don't know what the fuck John is talking about, but trust me. I don't know what he thinks you did to me, but I have no reason to retaliate. And even if you did do something, I don't have the time for that shit. These are all the rants of this guy, of this unwell mind.
But the point is, it's like, again, even if he didn't cross this line with me, what justifies, like, is it normal for someone to lose their mind like that? Get rid of everyone that he's talking about, and then talk about them in such a just a terrible way. And I have the screenshots, by the way, because what John didn't realize is the people that he removed aren't our only allies. People that understand what we do, that sympathize with what we do, and may not even be a part of what we do. But they recognize it and they respect it. And when he went on these rants, some terrible things were said. I almost included them yesterday, but I didn't have time. They were appalled and sent the screenshot saying, "I'm sorry you have to deal with this, but here's what he's saying now." I don't think Nick knows about that.
And then some guy who's not even in the industry said something like, "Yeah, he blames the Mickey Mouse docs who joined the IHRS or whatever." And I'm thinking, well, one of the original Mickey Mouse docs was John Cole, who's been with me for 20 years. You know, it's hilarious. The whole thing is ridiculous. Yeah. It's absolutely ridiculous. But again, props to fucking Nick, man. I got to say, that was not an easy phone call for him to make. And I admire that. And I would do the exact same thing for my father. That's it. Right or wrong. I can know my father was wrong. I can know it. Yeah. And I would still be like, if he said someone's black, I'd be like, and someone said it was white, I'd be like, you're wrong, man. Can't you see it's black? So I respect
Nick,
that.
I was given your gas card by the front desk at the hotel in Istanbul because you dropped it. Forgot to tell you that.
Yeah.
But
look, all right, so anyway, John, if you're listening, Nick, if you're listening, this is reality. Let's just fucking do the work, man. Let's just continue to work and do our thing. There's a lot of good that we can do. People need help. This bullshit has to end. End completely. The drama. There's no drama based around anybody else in this field.
Yeah. That's
your dad, John Cole, is the center of the drama every time.
No one else creates this drama.
Doesn't exist.
No.
It doesn't exist. And my hope is that behind the scenes in FEU Europe, the shit talking stops. Now, this is the thing. And you said something funny. You know, this is a unique industry where, you know, people, they have eyes and they have ears. And I'm glad that for the most part we're well liked. And shit that's said, it always comes back to us.
Yeah.
That's written, that's said, that's posted. Sometimes I'm just like, holy shit. I just, you know, I file it away. I keep it all filed away nicely. I tuck that shit away. I'm like, all right, I know what's going on, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
These guys have been trying to cancel me for almost 30 years. John was one of the OG cancelers. Nick probably doesn't know about the article that was written by him and his boy, who had the drug problem.
Yes.
Essentially stating, this is another time he was pissed off, what's the need for these consumer advocacy organizations that he had published in the Hair Transplant Forum International. There's like, I don't know, 15 years ago, some shit like that. I got a copy of that. I don't normally get, they don't send me shit. Everyone else sends it to me.
Yeah.
I have a hard copy of that. I should frame that shit.
Sounds like some excerpts were used in 2017 when he went on the warpath against us on that forum, because there's no in between. It's either
he loves us or he hates us,
or they're the best thing since sliced bread. There's no in between, and it goes from 0 to 100 in either direction depending on. Anyway, that's enough. So
it is enough.
Anyway, Nick, thanks for calling.
We don't have to discuss it anymore. I wasn't planning on really discussing it on the program. I mean, we did make some inference to it, but I'm glad that Nick called in. And my hope is that John Cole, or Dr. Cole as he likes to be referred to, Jesus, is listening and understands that, look, it's his choice. The ball is in his court. I don't think about this shit. You know what I'm going to do right now? I got somebody waiting for me. We're going to have a good fucking time. I'm going to live my life. That's it. I'm not thinking about John Cole or what's going to happen next. It's his choice. So let's hope that we don't have to continue to think about this shit. All right, Joseph Tillman, thank you so much. It was a very eventful show.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of fun.
Good to be here.
I'm sorry for everyone who's trying to hold on and get actual hair loss help, but we will be live next week. And you can follow me on my Instagram at Spencer Kobren. So I got some slow growth, but it's starting to explode a little bit more. And I realize as an older person that all I have to do is post. That's it. Just put out content and it grows. Didn't realize that. I'm just like, oh man, I don't want to deal with this shit. But it's becoming more fun, except for the sheer level of desperate DMs. And it's like people don't understand that they can contact us through the show. I may do a video about that as a reel or something.
That'd be good. I like that. Yes.
So, and Nick, man, you're welcome to call in anytime. I just want you to know that. My hope is that you're on the side of the good guys. And as you evolve in this industry, if you decide to stay in it for a long time, there's a lot of room. And what I always say to people, there's always room for the best in this industry. No one should be fighting and worrying about competition. There's always room for the best.
Well said.
If your dad's the best, then he has nothing to worry about. That's how I feel about it. All right, guys, until next time, be strong. God bless, and thank you so much for listening. Have a good night.
Good night.
Look how I fucked that up.
You may have been put to prior to the programme, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you.